A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. Here's the guest menu for today's show, October the 26th. We're going to be joined by Santoria Black of ESPN and Grambling State Radio Network. Bryan Fulford of the OG Strike Zone will join us in the bottom of hour number one to kind of preview, give us a take on Florida A&M. Of course, Southern is in the Sunshine State today to play FAMU in a big-time matchup. And then last but not least, in hour number two, Coach Farasi Norman will join us in hour number two. Before we introduce the panel, and I'm looking forward to talking to one member of the panel who gave a little bulletin board material last week. We'll tell you who that is in a minute. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Southern University visits the Sunshine State to tangle with the Rattlers in a big-time matchup. 2024 SWAC Hall of Fame class is announced. A couple of people we're familiar with is in that class. And then, last but not least, what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. The SWAC 2025 Baseball Tournament on the move again. That's what's trending. That's up for discussion on today's show. Now, we'll bring the panel in one by one. Charles Edmond, Willa Brown, and Coach Vann Pettaway. Gentlemen, how are you?
Just fine.
Well, yeah, this is a great day down here at the Magic City Classic.
Oh, boy.
Good morning, and I am not doing well at all. 7 days after that butt whipping last week. I'm just going to be honest with you. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. What it ain't was a victory. What it was a you-know-what.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and a couple of fans told me to tell you that last topic when you said it may not, it could not, it might not be close. As I celebrate a victory last week with my smoothie, and it's lemon, ginger, and spinach. So
it's sweeter when you win. It's sweet when you win. That's a sweet drink, and when you win, it's even sweeter. I get it.
And not bad at all. Not bad at all. Well, what's trending? Southern visits the Sunshine State to tangle with the Rattlers. See, after a big victory, the 24-hour rule, and now it's on to win the week. I'll have my prediction on that ball game later in the day. Congratulations to the 2024 SWAC Hall of Fame class announced. One of those gentlemen we know about, and then another gentleman we know about specifically, Coach Pete Richardson, former head football coach at Southern University. Also, Fred McNair, who's on the staff of Southern University. And Coach Pettaway, I think your time is coming. If it hasn't come, I will nominate you for the SWAC Hall of Fame class.
No. I don't think I should be in the SWAC Hall of Fame. I don't think we've done enough. I have done enough to be in there. We only won one SWAC championship. But now my question about Coach Pete Richardson, what took so long? That's the only question I got with this class. Why is Coach Richardson just not going in?
Well, that's a good question. And Coach Pettaway, I think, and that's Coach Fred McNair. And by the way, I saw him after the game. Class act by Coach McNair, and then all of the love shown him, players, cheerleaders, everybody came up to him, and it made my heart feel good. But now, Coach Pettaway, you say no, you hadn't done enough, but I'll tell you what, it's more than just winning championships. Your impact on student athletes, I would not have a problem at all. If I had a vote, which I don't, And
Close your mic.
oh, there's the mic
Okay.
again. You hear me?
It went out on me again.
Okay. Well, I was
Yeah,
saying,
yes, sir. Yeah, I heard you, man.
okay, and Charles Edmond will be in there some kind of way one day. I think at least from a standpoint of broadcasting.
Charles deserves
Just
it.
my opinion.
Charles deserves
Yeah.
to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I have the same question that Vann Pettaway just had about Pete Richardson. What took so long for Charlie Neal to get in? I remember when Charlie Neal was doing games. My first foray with HBCU football was back in '85 when Grambling played South Carolina State on national television. That was my first foray with HBCU football at Eddie Robinson Stadium. Great atmosphere on a Thursday night. The food was excellent. Great setup. I thought, I don't keep up with the SWAC Hall of Fame as much, but you would think that someone like Pete Richardson, Charlie Neal would already be in there. I mean, I don't follow it that closely, but you just would assume that they've already have been in the hall. But yeah, congratulations. Time is here, and I'm glad they're in.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's better late than never. But congratulations to all of the 2024 inductees, and we'll go over it a little bit more in detail because there are others on the list. But those two stood out because them from a personal standpoint. Also, later in the show, the 2025 SWAC Baseball Tournament on the move, and I was a guest. I'll just say this on the OG Strike Zone, and I was in backstage, and FAMU's coach pretty much came out, and Bryan and all the guys were shocked as well. And he said, "Well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but it's moving to Birmingham, and I guess we'll have to wait for the official announcement." But I'm gonna leave it right there. We'll come back and talk about that because I want to get into this game. And by the way, Santoria Black will be joining us very shortly. Hey, Willie, I need to see your receipt for that jacket.
You can let them know I did not pay for it. That's for sure. That's one of the perks of being the director of athletics. You get gear when your people get gear, and that's how it's played. That's how it should be played.
There are perks, for having that job, right?
That's right.
Bro. Now, let's get into this football game last week. Southern University, 24-14. Charles, you were laying the story to me. Let me just say, it took me 5 days to recover from homecoming. I've never, ever in my life seen that many people on campus. Traffic was horrendous. Even a guy like myself with the entourage, they were no help. I was stuck 2.5 hours. And I entered the back of the campus. For those who are familiar with it, it's where the famous Blue Store is at. And I was sitting in line in the vehicle, me and my best friend. 2.5 hours. Then, and not that I'm complaining, but we got on the campus, parked immediately there, and it felt like a 1.5 mile walk to the stadium. But guess what? This old guy here, he made it with no problem. But the atmosphere was great. The game itself was outstanding. Now, the attendance says 26,685. I thought it was more than that. But just my opinion. But Southern University, with the win, 24-14, moved to 4-3 overall, 3-0 in conference play. And the Jaguars did a couple of things. They shut Alcorn State out in the second half. It's the second week in a row that the offensive line didn't give up a sack. And then defensively, the second week in a row that they held their opponent to under 100 yards passing. And with this football team, Southern's had some challenges. You know very well, all of you on the panel. Offensively, we talked about the quarterback play. But resilient this team is, and at this point in October, they're undefeated and in first place albeit by half a game in the conference. But Charles, get into the traffic, getting through. You relayed a story to me that was very interesting.
Well, I've been coming to Mumford Stadium forever and a day, and I've never seen the traffic backed up to 110. The last time we were there, traffic stopped on the hump, and it took us 2.5 hours to get from the hump to our parking spot. But traffic was backed up at 110, and I just want to offer an apology, first of all, to the athletic director Roman Banks, to you, Carlos Brown, to the Jaguar Nation, to the Southern Administration, to the Baton Rouge Police Department, to the FBI, state police. I broke every state and federal and local law to get to my parking space. It got to the point where, and I looked at my watch, we stopped on 110 at 1:30. After the show last week, I immediately packed up and headed there. 110, right off the interstate. It took us 2.5 hours to get parked. Our equipment truck and our third bus, we take 3 buses, 2 players and managers take a third bus. They were behind us.
Wow.
So it got to a point where we had to make a decision. And I told Cedric Tillman, who was riding with me, like, we're going to have to bust a move here. We're going to have to cut in front of people because we would not have made it if we didn't do what we did.
Wow.
We would not have made it. So we get to the base of the hump and we see the equipment truck and the third bus still behind us. And like, they got to get to the stadium. So they stop traffic and we get on the median, Carlos. We're riding on the median to get past people. And then once we got close to the guardhouse, we wound up jumping the curb and we wound up getting to our parking space, which is right by the tennis courts. We park, and then a group of tailgaters say, look, the person that just parked in that spot just got towed. So you're on your own with that. I said, what the heck? But then I thought about it. I don't want to get towed because I don't have no idea what to do. So I told those folks, look, if you see a tow truck by my vehicle, call me. And I know it's going to be hard to get a call, but luckily, I thought, well, maybe once the game started, all that towing probably wouldn't happen. And so it was interesting. But I'm gonna say this, guys: when Wheeler Brown and Coach Pettaway, we complain. People complain about Alcorn's homecoming and operations. We complain about Southern's homecoming and operations. I don't have complaints because of the fact that so many people, so few entries and exits, and so it's almost impossible to handle the amount of people that's coming on your campus for homecoming. And what made it maybe a little better, Carlos, you know this better than me, LSU didn't have a home game Saturday. LSU was on the road. So all those law enforcement resources probably were right there by Southern University. I have no complaints whatsoever. It's an impossible challenge. We do the best we can to try to manage traffic as best as we can. You only have 3 or 4 entrances. We only got 2 main entrances at Alcorn. You got 2 other entrances, one a lot of people don't know about. But I just think it's an impossible task. You do the best you can with it. I thought Southern did what they could with it. The back part, the front part, whatever. I got a tour of the campus after the game, Carlos. I appreciate you for that. I've never been back there before. I've never been back on that part of the campus before in 35 years. Never been back there. So I got a tour. It was dark, but I got a tour. But it's an impossible task when you have that many people. So I give kudos to everyone at Southern, administration, police, whatever, to make it work as best as you can. But it is an impossible task. You had 26 in the stadium. You probably had another 15 outside the stadium. You can't handle that. It's very difficult, if not impossible. So I'm not going to complain about it. I got there. I got in. I got out. We did the game. We're fine. But I just think it's just a very difficult task. But nonetheless, the football game, you give Southern all the kudos in the world. We had a couple of opportunities. Southern went for it on 4th down twice to try to send a message. We come up big, but then we turn it over twice. A fumble by Sewell is first of the year. Xavier Vaughn, that's a whole other issue. We got a quarterback problem that we've got to get fixed by next week. He turned it over. But then Southern gets the lead. Then they have a chance to go in, and then they turn it over. We get late points. But Southern, as they do in the second half, and they've done it all year long, they find a way to shut you down in the 4th quarter. Other than McNeese, they gave up 21 in that 4th quarter. But if you look at the rest of the games, whether Savannah State, Nichols, Southern is stout in the 4th quarter and overtime. And it showed again. And we just couldn't get it done. and we got whooped up front, offensive line and defensive line. That was one of the big stories in the game. So congratulations to the Jaguars. You got to give them their flowers. They did what they had to do, and now they control the Western Division, and we'll see what they do in Tallahassee today.
Well, that's going to be a tough game coming up. Before we kind of get into statistics, Will, isn't that a good problem to have when you have that much people on the campus? It's a good problem to have.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. You know, from an administrative point of view, you just want the day to hurry up and get over. You know, when I was at Jackson State, I mean, I would get there homecoming day, probably 6 in the morning, while the lights were still on, that sort of thing and stuff. And, you know, that way I ensured I could get to my parking spot and, you know, get in my golf cart and start to roll around and, you know, manage things and things of that nature. And, you know, it's just, that's just how it is. You know that that's going to be a long day for you. I got there, I used to get there at 6 in the morning, probably didn't get out of there until about 10, 11 o'clock that night at best. You know, sometimes it was well after midnight, you know, because people want to stay there. They want to keep frying fish and all that sort of thing and stuff. And, you know, they're not going to go until you physically send the campus police over there and say, look, we got to shut this thing down. You know, so, but it's a good problem to have, and no doubt about that. A lot of schools don't have that problem at all, and I know they wish that they did.
Yeah, and
yeah, that traffic was so tough. My former assistant Willie Hayes, his daughter's a sophomore down there at Southern. He and his family went down for the game, and he called and he said, "Coach, it's a nightmare down here. So we can't get across the hump." And I told him, I said, "Now, Bill," I said, I don't know if you've been there for Southern for a football game, but you got to make it across that hump in time. I said, you need to go in the morning time. And he said they still left early, but they still could move because of the traffic. But that's a good thing to have. A lot of our schools are, well, we have that same issue. Like at Alabama A&M for homecoming, you're going to have the gridlock. I'm here at this event venue now because they told us if you don't get here by 8 o'clock, they weren't going to let you in. So I'm here at 8 o'clock for a 2:30 performance. And I said, well, I would like to get access to the press box. They said, yeah, you can go at 12. So it's very difficult. But the financial windfall from events like this, homecomings, I know the administration, they love it. They have to love it.
From a finance standpoint,
unless you're going to create more exits, egress, and degress opportunities on our campuses, which is not going to happen. I mean, let's just be real with that. It's going to be it's going to be gridlock, as you mentioned. And I even said myself, because I had a high school game last Friday, I said, well, if I leave the hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's probably the best opportunity to avoid traffic. But that's not realistic. That's not smart. You know, and you talked about the press box. I talked with your SID about it. They weren't going to open the press box till 10 o'clock. So I was in a darn if you do, darn if you don't situation. You leave too early, that's not smart. If you leave too late, you're probably going to get stuck even more so. So you just got to suck it up and deal with it and just be patient. And, you know, I just got, like I said, I got very lucky to get on the median behind our entourage. Our president and vice president were behind the second team bus. I kind of got behind them, but then it got gridlock again, and I was able to jump the curb and get where I need to get. It's unfortunate that you got to do that, but again, I just think it's an impossible situation, you know, when it comes to homecoming in these big games. It's really
Charles, administratively, you got to ask yourself, why would you spend a lot of money for one game? Because that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about getting different exit points and all this sort of thing, you're really only doing it for one game, you know, maybe two at best. Right. You know, so you have to ask yourself, you know, is it really worth it from a financial point of view to spend that money for just one or two games, you know, on a yearly basis? So, you know, it doesn't make it right. It just make it financially more feasible to kind of try to leave it the way it is as much as possible, you know, and just try to encourage people to get there as early as possible.
Well, let's add another person, and we'll ask him, Santoria Black, ESPN and the Grambling State family, how well was it difficult for him to get on campus? Santoria, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
All right.
We're doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing well. Listen, I hadn't been to homecoming at Southern in a long time. And when I tell you that from Scotlandville High School coming down that street over the hump was 2 hours.
Wow.
2 hours.
That's about right.
And so luckily, I just went on ahead and just said, you know, God, I got a game to do. It's 5:36. And we got to go on at 6. I just got on the median and started driving till the police stopped me. And I said, look, I got to get upstairs. Can somebody go ahead and escort me, please, so I get to the press box? And kudos to the state police because they escorted me all the way over by the stadium, got me parked, all of that stuff, got upstairs. And as soon as I sat down, the music started. So look at God.
Wow.
Yeah.
And guess what, guys? You guys were treated well.
Yes.
I didn't get a parking pass, and I'm trying to figure out if it was my fault. So I had a nice little walk. So I got my steps in. I got my steps in. So I'm glad you guys were able to get to your point of destination. Santoria, the ball game itself, 24-14, Southern over Alcorn State. Your reflection.
Well, I tell you what, to me, the first half, 14-14 going into halftime, I thought it was a pretty evenly matched game. We saw where there was problems on both sides. Where I really thought the turning point happened was when Southern started running the football a lot more. When they put the ball in Kendrick Grimes' hands and they started running the football a lot more, I thought it was very hard for Alcorn to stop because the defense just got worn down. And honestly, when you start looking at their quarterback, as good as Xavier is, one of the things that you notice, though, is that once that pressure got on him and he was forced to run the ball, couldn't get the ball out, it was a lot of 3-and-outs for Alcorn. There was just a lot of issues offensively. They just couldn't score. So, Southern just played well, I think, in the second half with the running game. Defensively, I think they did a great job and really stepped it up, got into the backfield, interrupted a lot of different plays. So I thought it was a good second half by Southern to really put things away.
And I believe, and I said the previous week that Southern was going to kind of have a spy on Xavier Vaughn. His strength is running the football and his athleticism. And for the second week in a row, Southern held an opponent to under 100 yards passing. Also, Kelby Givens he ate all game. Charles, number 71, the offensive tackle, he really had a tough time last week. And then also, if you look at it, Southern gambled on some early opportunities in the red zone. They scored there. I think the game becomes a much different dynamic. But Alcorn's defense rose to the occasion. But defensively, this football team has hung their hat on defense all year. And again, in the second half, no points for Alcorn State. So it was really the team that you've seen. You saw last Saturday is the team you saw all year. Were they perfect offensively? Still have some issues, but 295 yards rushing, guys. That's the best that they've rushed all year. All year, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the numbers in terms of throwing the football, what Southern had, and running the football, those were kind of like Alcorn numbers. Xavier Vaughn could throw for $150. He had a rushing touchdown, and we run for 295 yards. But it was the flip. The script was flipped this last Saturday. Southern was able to ground and pound, and we couldn't. And right now, I mean, for us guys, we got quarterback issues right now. It's been percolating beneath the surface all year. I mean, Xavier Vaughn with 200-yard rushing games, but as Cedric Thomas said on the show Monday night, you can't beat anybody throwing for 76 yards, and that's all we had throwing the football. Now, credit Southern University for that, but we got to do better, in the passing game if we're going to roll forward and stay in this race. So Southern University, I mean, it's not flashy, it's not pretty. They bring their lunch pail to work. And, we got whipped up front on both, on both sides of the football, and I thought that was a huge difference.
I think Wheeler Brown would have loved that effort, a former offensive tackle himself, because it was nasty. And you know, Coach Pettaway, the two things that Coach Graves and staff did, they added a true freshman and a red shirt freshman on the offensive line. And then they changed out the center, Juan Gonzalez. And those changes, now you see the production, a much better running game.
Right. The changes, they paid big dividends. I had an opportunity to watch the game, but that was just a great atmosphere, a great football game. I thought Santoria them did an outstanding. They did an outstanding job on the game, man. It was very entertaining, very entertaining. That is, I mean, for Jaguar Nation, it was entertainment. But Alcorn, they just couldn't hold up, man. And Southern's defense, man, I think they're gonna be in good shape as long as that defense stays healthy. I think they're gonna be okay. I think Southern will be okay.
Wheeler, the offensive line continues to improve. Bolton has to be more consistent to me. And then you got to put him in a position where he is to be successful. No quarterback controversy for Southern University, although the fans will always like to see the second string quarterback. He's the most popular guy on the team. But to me, just winning, whatever way you have to do it. And
Carlos, the fans will get you fired.
Well, yeah,
the fans will get you out of there. So go around listening to what they got to say and reacting to every little thing they have to say, that sort of thing. You're not gonna have a job, that's for sure.
Well, interesting point by you.
You know what the saying is, Carlos, about that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to coach for the fans, then you go at some point be a fan. That means you're gonna be sitting in the stand. I don't know if you heard that before. That's kind of the running, underlying joke with that. If you're gonna coach for the fans, you're gonna be a fan. You're gonna be sitting in the bleachers at some point without a job. So, you take that for what it's worth. But what frustrates our fans too, Carlos, that was a key point in the game when, unfortunately, Bowden got knocked out of the game, and all T-Set did was hand the football off. Not be a hero, just hand the football off, and Southern was able to make some plays. And I think that's what's frustrating the Braves fans as well. We didn't do anything to move that pocket, to unsettle him a little bit. And, that was just another bone of contention.
And quiet it is kept. You talk about that front seven for Southern University, but that back end on the defense, secondary, they've been a pleasant surprise because Southern lost quite a few people coming into the season. But that pressure up front, Kelby Givens, unbelievable. Pressure up front, the linebacking core, Vincent Page, Derek Williams. Now, I want to know, because we're sitting in the press box and we're next to the coaches. To your point, quote, offensive coordinator Mark Frederick, we don't need a hero. Run, we're going to pound them. That was his exact words. And Cesarian T-Set did not throw a pass. And to me, they imposed their will on Alcorn State's defensive line. Santoria, Wheeler, Charles, Coach Pettaway, stay tuned. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to add another person, Bryan Fulford, from the OD Strike Zone. He'll join us next. You're watching the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture this.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Before we introduce our next guest, just a few numbers. Net yards rushing for Southern University last week, 295. Alcorn State, 214. Total offense, 290 for Alcorn State, 436 for Southern University. They ran 72 offensive plays, 57 for Alcorn State. Net yards passing, Southern 141 yards passing, 76 for Alcorn State. Third down conversions, Southern at a even 50%, 9 of 18. Alcorn State 3 of 11. Kendrick Grimes 133 yards rushing. Kobe Dillon with 99. And by the way, I was looking in the chat room, and they were talking about the atmosphere, the halftime show, the lights, spectacular, and the PA announcer. I loved it. Santoria, he said, you can't do that after every penalty. A simple thing, but I enjoyed it. The atmosphere, everything. It was an A+. Congratulations to Southern University. That was a homecoming experience I won't forget.
Forget. You know, I think that you talk about atmosphere, and I think when you look at the HBCU culture, and the atmosphere that you have for a game like homecoming, it's the institution's responsibility really to provide the atmosphere, set the table. Win or lose, do the fans have a good time when they leave the stadium? And I think that's the major thing. And when you saw that atmosphere, look, I have to give it up. The halftime show with the lights and turn off the lights and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, that just really added to everything. And so both bands were there. You had everything that was really needed to have an atmosphere for a great game. And, look, tailgating was great. I had a chance to meet tailgaters after the game who were still cooking and offering me food. I was going to get the itis going home eating all that food. But look, just kudos to that. And I think Charles brought up a good point. Traffic is going to be traffic if you're at a homecoming event. It's tough. Yes, it can be frustrating. You wish that there were better ways to navigate. I don't know that. That's not my area of expertise, so I couldn't tell you. I just know that it is tough. But there is one lesson in this. I saw some fans on social media that spoke about, well, man, I couldn't even get a ticket. This is why you buy your ticket early. You don't wait until the last minute to try to go up to the gate and purchase the ticket, because it was a sellout. And when they announced that on social media before halftime, there were people who were turning around and they were going back. But we've got to get out of the habit of purchasing tickets for a big event like that at the last minute and expecting that we're going to get good results every time.
I agree.
And then, you know what? And Santoria, you're absolutely correct. It's called the fan day experience. And that's what more and more schools are putting more emphasis on, that, because you got to make the game an experience for the fans in order to keep them coming back. And then you're absolutely right. We got to get our tickets in advance. Most places now you can go online and get your tickets. And we just have to do that, because a lot of places, like at A&M for homecoming, you can't get a ticket on game day on campus. It has to be through, over the internet or whatever they call it. But the fan experience is a big thing. They're trying to do that in basketball now. And to me, that's.
I think we lost Coach Pettaway there.
But people, that will put
people
in the seats and keeps them coming back.
Well, Carlos, that's why you buy season books. That's why you buy.
I was just getting ready to say that.
Book,
right.
You automatically got a homecoming ticket, and no problem. If you don't want to go to the rest of the home games, you can donate them to somebody or what have you. There are things that you can do, with those other tickets that you may not, want to attend a particular game. But as Coach Pettaway was saying, the game day experience is a plus. There's no doubt about that. That's how you keep people coming back. But you got to have that game day experience pretty much at every game. You got to be doing some things every game, because what you want to do ultimately, Carlos, is sell those other games. You don't want to just sell homecoming. Homecoming pretty much sells itself. But you got to find a way to sell those other games. You got to find a way to sell a Valley game or, what have you, whatever else is out there. You have to find a way to do that.
Well, with that being said, let me add our next guest, Bryan Fulford of the OG Strike Zone. He does a great job along with Hellman and the whole crew, and they cover, of course, FAMU athletics. So with that being said, he'll give us kind of a preview of the FAMU Rattlers. I have my opinions. I have some stats to look at to kind of get a good measure of FAMU, and I've seen them a few times on television. But Bryan will give us that expert analysis. Bryan Fulford, where are you? There he goes.
Good morning, good afternoon, panel, everybody, Carlos, everybody. How's everybody doing?
All right.
We're doing fine. How about yourself?
Doing good.
You doing all right, Bryan?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm ready. It's game day. Someone has to pay. Someone has to pay, Carlos. Somebody has to pay.
Uh-oh. And, I was on your show Wednesday night, and I remember I said that some fans what came up to me and was like, boy, I almost wish FAMU would have won that game against Jackson State, because they're going to be in a nasty mood. Second longest home winning streak in FCS. But this FAMU team, Bryan, tell us about this FAMU team.
Well, there was a wise coach who said, "You are what your record says you are." And we are a 3-3, 1-1 in the conference ball club. And what do those numbers tell you? Average, 500. So we are what our record says we are. And yes, I know 2 of those losses have come against FBS opponents, but in those 2 losses, we did not score a touchdown. We got close. You know, we sniffed the end zone. It's like if someone was baking a cake, you were nose up to the oven and you smelled the cake, but you didn't get a cut. You didn't get a slice. You didn't get you didn't get to lick the icing off of it. That was our offense. And you know, we have not scored. We didn't score touchdowns in those situations. I think. Here's my thought. Halfway through the season, right? And I think Rattler Nation has to come to the reality. This is not last year's team. That's the truth. And it should have been expected. Yes, I know we had some returners from last year, some good returners, and we had good talent coming in. But you had a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. And yes, they have been on staff, but in being in the role that they are in, it is new. So are we where we are? We should have expected to be where we are. Now we're disappointed with some of the outcomes, but I think this is the part of the season now where we get the real assessment of 2024, and it starts, as you said, Carlos. You wish it wasn't against y'all, but it's starting with Southern, and this is where we're at. So we are what our record says we are, and we feel like we let one off the hook. I'm not going to use the word self-inflicted, but it is what it is. Right? So,
Bryan, kind of looking into some of the numbers. Kelvin, how you doing? Where's the orange and green, Bryan?
I'm reverse. I'm trying to psych people out today. I'm trying to psych out. I figure if I wear some blue, I might throw people off.
Well, it's interesting. Wheeler in his Jackson State jacket, and Bryan not in his orange and green. Oh boy!
Hey, hold on. In all honesty, I had basketball practice today. See, I had school practice, and I knew I was going to catch hell for this, but I didn't realize it until I got in the car and I said, "Oh man, I'm orange." That's why I called you, Carlos. See, that's why I told you. I said, "Carlos, can I come on in the second hour?" That would have given me enough time to go home, get changed for the show, and out of respect for the panel, Carlos said, "I want you in the first hour." So here I am wearing my school colors. See, my school colors, right? My school. Okay, come on now.
Hey,
leave me alone, people.
But nice colors, gold and blue.
Oh, stop it.
Bryan, I look into the numbers, and I guess I was surprised. Of course, you more in detail with FAMU, but rushing the football, they're near the bottom in the conference, and stopping the run. Those 2 things, I guess I'm shocked by it, to be brutally honest.
I am too. Yeah. I couldn't have predicted us with the returning offensive line that we have to see our running. And I think we have good backs. I mean, obviously we have the Celebration Bowl MVP and Kelvin Dean. We've got a very good back in Thad Franklin Jr., who I think should get the ball more. And we have an exciting young man, Bo Somerset, who I think is the future. So we have 3 very good backs, in my opinion. We just haven't it just clicked with the offense, and we have a quarterback who, Danny Richardson, he has the ability. I know we're not running plays for him to run, but he's capable. I am shocked, like everybody else, I'm sure, that our running game hasn't produced a touchdown. That's the thing that is the real kicker. 6 games, like 6, and we have not had a rushing touchdown yet. That's head scratching to me.
Wow. Well,
but Brian, I think you guys have bitten the bullet in a few games that you could have lost that you guys won. So that to me kind of let me know that it probably wasn't going to be a typical FAMU year, because I think early on, even the games that you guys wound up pulling out, they were kind of like toss-ups until, the final quarter, that sort of thing, or you could tell somewhere during the game that, this is not your typical FAMU type squad.
Yeah, the other way to look at that, A.D. Brown, is to kind of say that we, and this is how I like to look at it, in the first 2 games, yes, Norfolk State and even South Carolina State, our culture, our pedigree as learning how to win games late kind of showed up. And yes, we did benefit from the fact that it was early in the season. We caught Norfolk State in the beginning of their season. We caught South Carolina State at the beginning of their season. Mm-hmm. It did bite us in the butt, though, last week when we faced a team who had also played 4, 5, 6 games or something like that. Mm-hmm. And, you get in these kind of matchups where that game was a 50-50. That game could have gone any number of directions. Mm-hmm. The ESPN index said we had a 75% chance after Jackson State missed that field goal. And who would have thought 3 plays later, I certainly didn't think 3 plays later that there'd be a scoop and score, and all of a sudden we're scratching our head like, what the heck just happened, So it's, yeah, I mean, I respect that opinion. I could see that, and I would hope that we can avoid another fourth quarter close ball game with Southern, but I got a feeling we're going to be in another shootout tonight.
For the panel, if you have a question for Bryan Fulford, please.
I have a question.
Please do so.
I have a question, Brian, and to me, the turnovers. 7 turnovers last couple of games? 4 against Alabama State, in which you won that game. If Alabama State had a quarterback, may have been a different story. But was it 3 turnovers last week? Is that been a nagging issue? Is just something that's just popped up here in the last few weeks?
You mean from the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah.
No, sadly, that turnover bug has been hanging over our head since the beginning. I think in week 1 and 2 we were turning the ball over, and I know it was a sore spot for Coach, and we got away with it, which is rare. Usually you don't lose the turnover battle and win ball games, and that we did. We overcame that in the first 2 games, probably because of the defensive talent on the field. This time, here we are, a 4-3 advantage, but the timing of the turnovers hurt us. The timing of the turnovers. I mean, Jackson State had 4 turnovers. We only scored 7 points. And the 3 touchdowns, the 3 opportunities in the second half, and I'm going to even go so far as to add, I know it doesn't officially count, but when you kick a 50-yard field goal and miss, you essentially are giving us a pretty good field. So when they missed that 50-yard field goal, they gave us some good field position. You could almost count that as half a turn. If you say 3.5, we still didn't score. So I don't know. Opportunities, we are missed opportunities that we have to overcome, and it is shocking. But those are the little things, like when you look at our first half, and those are the things that you say: the lack of the running game, no running touchdowns, the inconsistency in the turnover margin. We are what our record says we are. I mean, but the season's not over, and that's the positive.
Well, we talked about it last week. FAMU, prior to last week's ball game, FAMU had, and I'll quote Charles. Charles, you said it had the easiest route to the Eastern Division Championship, their remaining schedule. Now, this game becomes very important for Southern University and Florida A&M. You still feel that way, Charles?
No, not necessarily. After that loss last week,
Charles said no.
No, I mean it's called a pivot, but you just have to look at this in real time. I mean, FAMU's behind the 8 ball now. I mean, that loss to Jackson State, just like our loss to Southern, yes, it counts one game, but it's like two. You have to finish ahead of now. Granted, Jackson State, I think, has a tough path. They got to come to us at the end of the year. They got to go to Montgomery, and all of a sudden, Alabama State is lurking now with that loss because Alabama State hosts Jackson State. So it's for Alabama State fans, they're pulling for Southern today because if FAMU loses today, then I think it's going to be tough for them to repeat. But I think FAMU, they won. How many have they won in a row? Like 24 in a row at home or something like. What's the winning streak?
21. It's a 21 game winning streak. Yep.
21 games. So I mean, FAMU's going to be angry. They're going to be upset because of what happened. Southern's got to come with it, but I think the path for FAMU is still there because they've got all these games either in the state of Florida or at home. But still, they got to pick themselves up. They can't let this loss beat them twice because if they lose another game, especially this game today, I think it's going to be tough for them to repeat. Considering even though they've got the home schedule, it's going to be a tough hill to climb.
So we do have that. That's Charles brought up a great point. The fact that we do have 5 of these last 6 games in the state of Florida and 4 of the 5 are at home. That is an advantage for us, and we feel really good about that, and we should feel really good about that.
What I think is really interesting is that if you look at the Eastern Division, you're already talking about teams that have 2 losses that are out of the race. Meanwhile, in the West, you can have 2 losses, and you're still very much in contention coming into this week. You've got Southern's undefeated still, but you got Alcorn. You got Grambling still there with 2 losses. But it's all on how that schedule lines up here at the end of the year. And, I just look at Alabama State. I think they start probably the most difficult part of their schedule this weekend. You've got Alabama A&M. You turn around, you got to go to Alcorn. You still got Jackson State. I think you still got Southern on the schedule. So for the West, I think it's a little different because, if you're a team like Grambling, you can't lose another game, but you can still win with 2 losses. The other side of that is you're talking about FAM. Hey, you lose the game, you're probably out of it. That's just really an interesting dynamic between the East and the West.
It's always a thin line between a winning season in the conference and a losing season.
But what makes this a little more intriguing, when you lose a game in the division, that's what kicks you in the rear end right there. So FAMU lost to Jackson. So any tie break with Jackson, they're out. And so you got to pay attention to that as well. And you talk about Alabama State. I mean, they've got every game in the state of Alabama with the exception. I think they come to Grambling in a couple of weeks. But other than that, they play at either Montgomery and they play us in Mobile. It's our home game, but it's in Mobile. That's 186 miles from Montgomery. So that's kind of a home game for them, even though it's our designated home game. So for Alabama State, the door's open for them. They got to take care of their business in the Magic City. That's going to be huge for them. But if somehow Southern beats FAMU, you got to add Alabama State to that equation. And some people had Alabama State winning the East. So it's not a done deal yet, but, the doors ajar a little bit for Alabama State.
What guys? Why? And maybe I can't be objective, but with Alabama State, it's just I never feel like they should be in the conversation. And maybe I'm wrong for that, but every year we hear about Alabama State. This is the year. This is the year, and I get disappointed. I'm gonna be honest, Charles. And I know you bring them up a lot, and technically they still in the running, but as Wheeler, and I think Wheeler feels the same way as under. Something about Alabama State. It's just not their time. But
Carlos, financially they should be in the hunt every year.
Well,
there's no reason why.
But that has not been the case. You're talking about football wise, right?
That's what I'm talking about. Football.
Yeah.
Wise.
Okay.
Financially, they should be in the hunt every year. Every year. They have a full complement of everything that's needed. that's necessary in order to be in a conversation on a yearly basis. Now, somebody has to find out why they're not in that conversation on a yearly basis, but financially ain't the problem. That ain't the issue at all.
Well, Willie, here's hoping that today is not the day that they figure that out, okay? We're just hoping that today is not the day that they figure that
out. Because Alabama A&M can really put a dart in some of their hopes. You know, look, we often talk about it, Bryan, on the show. You got to win the week, you know, and it's good to kind of look and project in the future. But it's a week-by-week thing, situation. And I look at Southern. I mean, they're 3-0 in the division, but they have not had it easy at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've had hurdle after hurdle, and a lot of it was self-inflicted. But here they are, right there, with FAMU now with one loss. But being resilient, that's the adjective I use for Southern University football.
Yeah, Carlos, if they can't run the ball today, if Southern can't run the ball today, it may be a tough day. They got to be able to run that ball today. And you know, they got to expect FAMU going to stack the box. Ain't no doubt about that. They're going to try to shut it down, you know, which opens up the play action pass and things of that nature. You know, if they can take advantage of that to kind of get them off the line a little bit, you know, then they may have a better shot at getting it. But their real key is going to be able to pound that ball. If they can pound that rock today, they can win.
Take the pressure off of Noah Bowden.
I'll say this. I you know, if I'm just, you know, I'm gonna be the objective person here, and if I were Southern's coaching staff watching what I saw Jackson State do to our defense, our run defense especially, I would have been salivating. I mean, those coaches, I agree with you, Wheeler. I mean, we should expect Southern to run 3 times as much as they pass. I mean, our whole objective, yes, we should try to put as many people in the right gaps and stack the box and force Noah Biden to beat us. I mean, I'm just that's the goal. I'm going into saying, hey, Noah Biden has to beat us, fellas. We cannot allow that team to run for close to 300 yards, not on the heels after what Jackson State did to us and some other teams earlier in the year. Now, Noah Biden has to beat us. And if Noah Biden beats us, because I think we have good secondary, we have good defensive backs. If Noah Biden beats us, well, gosh darn it, you know, we won't be happy, but we'll deal. But yeah, we just can't let them run all over us today.
I can't disagree at all. That would be my game plan if I'm FAMU's defensive coordinator. Santoria, you've seen FAMU.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the real trick here, I think, is that the Southern offense, you got to get the running game going. But I think if you look at Southern's defense, the way that they put pressure on you is really going to determine this game. You know, I think the turnovers that FAMU has, if I'm the defensive coordinator, what I'm looking at is how do we put monster pressure, have that gap control, especially in the A gap, and to make your quarterback really uncomfortable. Because if they can do that, I think that Southern University can pull off some turnovers. The key here is the more Southern has the football, the more FAMU's defense will tend to wear down. So that means that the defense got to force FAMU into a lot of 3 and outs, forcing them to go to the outside, forcing your quarterback to run the football, and really coming up with some big turnovers. I think that the true battle happens between the defensive line of Southern and the offensive line of FAMU. That's the real battle to me today.
Valid point. Great point. As we close up this segment up, Bryan, and we appreciate the time. If FAMU wins the football game tonight, by the way, ESPN Plus, 6 p.m., I'm thinking that's Central Time, right, Bryan?
Yeah, 7 Eastern, 6 Central.
I can never get used to Eastern Time. Never. I don't know why, but anyway, I'll have to live with it. FAMU wins if they do 3 things.
1, limit turnovers. My gosh, we have to play. We have to play a clean game. My guy Kelvin's right there. Turnovers are the key. So that's number one. I think we have to run the ball. My bold prediction on the show Wednesday was 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, granted, we have 0. So it sounds strange to call rushing touchdowns a bold prediction, but when you go on 6 games and have 0, I'm calling for 2. So I think we have to be able to run the ball and score touchdowns. And then my third key is I think we have to limit Southern's rushing attack. I think we have to make Noah Biden beat us, slow them down. They're rushing. But what is Southern averaging? I was just looking at the stats in terms of
scoring offense, 21 points a game. Wow. FAMU, 19.3. That's shocking.
Yeah.
Because to me, FAMU can throw it. They can spin it.
Right. In terms of rushing, it seems like Southern's rushing offense, I'm just looking at the stats here. It seems like the rushing offense should be a little higher than the 138 average that it is. Mm-hmm. But I think if we can keep them in the ballpark of close to 100, I mean, that would be ideal. Definitely we can't let them do what they did last week. So,
well, I'll be honest with you. And I said on your show Wednesday, this 295 yards rushing, that is the best that they've done all year. But when you look against McNeese, when you looked against Jackson State, it was under 100 yards. So even though that 295, that's a huge amount for them. If you average it all out, that's where it comes up to 138 yards rushing, which is 6. FAMU is second to last. Wow. 88 yards rushing the football. And then rushing defense, FAMU is 10th. They're giving up over 200 yards a game. Southern is actually 6th, 158. So FAMU, if they are to be successful, they'll have to run the ball. And then if they're not successful early, I don't think they should just, get away from it. Still stick with it, because Southern tends to have given up big running plays, like last week against Alcorn State. They had 212 yards rushing, but 6 to 8 yards came on one play on that 4th and 1, if you remember. So Southern's defense been consistent. But Brian, this game scares me though. Southern University.
Let me add this. This is interesting, and I want to bring. I love EA to death. I'm one of them people. I'm kind of old school in thought. Mm-hmm. 3 things can happen when the ball is in the air, and 2 of them are bad. And I know Rattler Nation wants the ball in the air. They want to put the ball in the air. But look, I'm gonna tell you, when you look at Southern's pass efficiency defense, it ranks 5th in the FCS. 5th, mm-hmm. Right? And you talked about those stats. Southern got 51 points put up on them at home. So when you start looking at the crazy numbers and the metrics, I'm sorry to mention that, Carlos.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
But Southern's pass defense is actually pretty good. I mean, statistically speaking, their pass defense is pretty good. So I know that our weakness is the run, but of the Southern has the 7th. Somebody put it in the chat. They're 7th overall in FCS. So if overall their defense is top 10, and it's primarily in large part to their pass defense efficiency, to me, I wouldn't want to start chucking the ball all over the field. Now, maybe we have to find ways to use our tight ends more, or be a little more intentional of with instead of trying to force 15, 20 yards, look within the 5-yard, 10-yard range and let our receivers do more. But I still think we have to find a way to run the ball. We have to find a way to run the ball. I'm stubborn. I'm old school. I know a lot of people are like, no, we're a pass-first team. I get it. I hear you. But we have to be able to run the ball. If we can't run the ball, I still maintain, we don't lose to to Jackson State last week if we could have ran the ball on 3rd down. We should have ran the ball on 3rd down. I would have taken running. I'm conservative, but you have a lead. And our defense was playing well enough. Run the ball, punt the ball, let your defense force Jackson State to have to go 30 or 50 yards to try to kick another long field goal when they've already shown you that their kicker couldn't do it. and try to beat us versus pass the ball and anything bad can happen. That, my take, I'm old school in my thought process, but that's what this team appears to be in my eyes.
Yeah. Well, from the Southern perspective, passing the football, they'll have opportunities to make some big passing plays. Can Noah Bolton, and again, I put the pressure on the O-line, but Noah Bolton, he's got to have a consistent game.
Don't believe anything Adrian Crook says.
Oh.
There's one other dynamic that I think that's interesting that we're not thinking about. T-Set being a left-hand quarterback offers a very different dynamic for FAMU's defense. And so if they get the running game going for Southern, it's a lot harder to defend a left-hand quarterback than it is a right-hand quarterback at times. So don't be surprised if you see the offense running two quarterbacks at one point in order to throw off the timing of the FAMU defense.
Well, T-Set's health, we saw him a little bit last week from a high ankle sprain. He didn't throw a pass, but I'm going to remember that, Santoria. I marked that in the old brain there. When we see that tonight, or will we see it? I don't know where I heard it first. Bryan Fulford prediction.
FAMU 28, Southern 24.
That's kind of close to my prediction, but Bryan, okay. Yeah. I'll give my prediction at the end of the show.
I hope that's right, Bryan. I hope you're right on that, because that keeps us in the race. If that happens, you're welcome.
Hey, I picked Alcorn in the West, so yeah, I'm rooting. I think I picked Alcorn in the West. So,
well, I didn't, Coach Pettaway. I didn't pick.
And Carlos, I'm gonna be honest now. I'm like Bryan with them playing at home, because I am gonna have to get off too at the break. I think FAMU will win by 3. I think FAMU will win by 3.
Will you want to give a shot at it?
I'll take a shot at it. I got Southern by 3. 21-17.
All right.
I just think they find a way to run that ball, and if FAMU can't counter that in some way, shape, or form, it could potentially be a long day. But I think for Southern, the key is going to be ball control. They got to keep FAMU's offense off the field, and the way that you do that really is by running the football. So if they can do that, then I think they got a shot.
Santoria?
I love you, Carlos, but I'm going to do this. 24-20 FAMU. Southern gets stopped on 4th down to end the game.
Ooh, I love that.
Hey, but you know what? On this show, hey, this is what I asked for. Your opinion. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. On Bryan's show, I'm going to use the same prediction that I used last Wednesday night. I actually have FAMU winning 24-20. See, Wheeler, I can be objective. I don't have the blue and gold glasses on. It's going to be tough, but FAMU wins it for Southern. It's still plenty to play for, and they still control their actions, their destiny in the Western Division.
I'm gonna say this. I think Florida A&M will win the game 23-21. I got FAMU winning, but
here's the but, Charles.
This is one of those games that, outside of Baton Rouge and the Jaguar Nation, not many people are giving Southern a chance to go to brag and snap that streak. This is the kind of game that Southern rises up, just following the Southern Jaguars, these big road games, big conference games on the road, where very few people outside of the sphere pick them to win. This is one of those games that Southern could play a really good football game and knock off FAMU and knock them out of the race, and for Southern University to rise up. So I do have Florida A&M winning the game. There's a difference between being shocked and surprised. I would be shocked if Southern won this game, but I would not be surprised if Southern won this game.
Pete Richardson's not walking through that door, is he? Pete Richardson walking through that door? What's happening there? What? Dawson Odom's coming back? What's going on?
Well, Tulsa Odoms. Wow.
Big
Okay.
worm. Big worm.
Well,
big worm. The big worm.
My dear sweet aunt, only question she had was, if Southern wins the football game, will it be another situation where the sprinklers will come on after the game and on Southern University? You remember that, Brian? The last victory. Oh, my, Bragg.
You're lucky there's field turf. There's field turf. I don't think there are sprinklers on the field turf. I don't know. I don't think there might be a light situation that happens this time. Might be some lights issues.
But God bless her. She didn't know. She didn't know about the turf. You're right. But Brian, we appreciate the time. 6 p.m. Central, ESPN Plus, FAMU and Southern University. Coach Pettaway, enjoy the Magic City Classic. Santoria, enjoy your rest. And let me say this, Santoria, I'm so proud of you. Congratulations doing the work with ESPN Plus, you and your wife from the gospel side, winning many awards. Keep up the good work, and I'm really proud. And it's good to see one of your own get the opportunity and now getting that chance and doing well. I salute you, sir.
Well, look, I really appreciate it. It's a blessing. I'm very thankful. There's a lot of people that have been a part of a lot of things that I have done. You know, my big brother over there, Charles, of course. I've known him since I walked on Grambly's campus many years ago, and he's always been a mentor to me. And, you know, just a lot of people who I'm very thankful that have been a part of my life to help along the way. So trust me, it is not done alone. And, you know, I'm really thankful, and I appreciate all the love.
All righty. We'll talk again real soon on the show, okay?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Brian, thank you as well. We're overdue for a timeout. I may have some punishment from our producer extraordinaire, Melody. We appreciate her. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll have Coach Farasi. He'll join us. We'll span the SWAC. Oh, that's a rattlesnake. Charles, you might as well get the chant going. I just want a victory for Southern University. I hope I am wrong on my prediction. More of the Coles Brown Show coming up next, right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Hey, grab me one too.
Bryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be. You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel. Yes! That's how you waffle! Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel. A business big leaguer. Go for key. Even the ultimate pool float inflator. With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, hour number 2, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Wheeler, you took Southern in your predictions tonight. And by the way, kudos, you took Bethune-Cookman last week, the only one, if I'm not mistaken. So
matter of fact, I was undefeated last year, Carlos. So I gotta pat myself there. It's very, very, very rare, very, very rare that I get a chance to go undefeated. So, yeah, that was a plus.
Well, we're going to get ready. Thank you. We're going to get ready to go over the final scores from last week and then get you ready with some predictions for this week. But now, welcome, Coach Farasi Norman, back to the show, week 2, to be part of hour number 2 panel. And there he is, Coach Norman. How you doing, sir?
Hey, aloha, fellas. How y'all doing? AD Brown, Charles, what's going on? Hey, CB, man, week 2 for Farasi Norman on the Carlos Brown Show. Check it out. Who's got it better than me? Nobody.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back on. And
thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, final scores from week 8, and I think I have the list right in front of me. Mississippi Valley State dropped it. Decision to Bethune-Cookman, 20-10. It was Jackson State over FAMU, 35-21. Game was a little closer than the score indicates. It was Pine Bluff losing to Grambling State, 31-21, and of course, Southern over Alcorn State, 24-14. Coach, I think you had Southern University winning last week. Am I correct?
I did, Mr. Charles. I wasn't trying to be rude to you. I was just trying to say that offensive line they got. Southern can run the football. And to throw it out there early, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a FAMU graduate, and I told him, I said, buddy, you might get another knock on the chin this weekend because that team can run a ball and you can't stop the run. He says, I know, Coach. I know. So, Southern's got a run game that's impeccable, and they need to put their eggs in that basket. I know they rotating 2 quarterbacks. They're good, talented young brothers, but if you got a strength, I say run with it. We got a saying in football, if you got thoroughbreds in the stable, don't keep them locked up. Let them run. So let them boys run. Let them boys run. They got a good team running that football.
And Charles, Coach Norman Wheeler, Brian said it in the last segment, and I think they will stack the box. Yeah, and that's how I would go against Southern University. But I still think it's going to come down. If they're able to run the football like they did against the Alcorn State defense, who was statistically much better than FAMU, and they rushed for almost 300 yards, I think it looks good for Southern University. But I still want to see some opportunities and some plays, being able to make some explosive plays. Can Noah Bolton deliver? Charles, what did you think of Noah Bolton? We talked on the show, but you saw him in person. Not to put any more pressure on the young man, but he has had his challenges so far this season. I got to turn your mic up, Charles.
I'm here in the bowling alley here getting ready for a tournament, so there's a room of people in here. Apologize for that. But yeah, Noah Bowden, Grambling transfer. It's just a matter of how he was going to be used at Southern University. And what I saw from Noah Bowden, I think we rattled him early. I think he had a couple of open receivers he didn't hit, but your running game, when you can run the football, you can settle your quarterback down pretty quickly, and that's what Southern was able to do in running the football. I think if FAMU can make it a Noah Bowden game where Bowden's got to beat him, I think it's going to be tough. But again, when you can run the football the way Southern did with Rhymes, and if they can keep FAMU's offense off the field, they have a chance. I'm impressed with what they have Bowden doing. You got to credit Coach Totten for that, settling him in. What is his status today though? Is he supposed to play? Is it going to be T-Set? Because we didn't see Bowden.
Well, I tried to get a report straight from the source, and I didn't hear anything back. I know after the play, and they, again, I'm in the press box area next to the coach's booth, and they were screaming that it was should have been foul. It wasn't. Okay, but then then after the game, I saw him dancing on the sideline, so I'm going to say he's not in concussion protocol. Will you see T-Set and Bowden? I don't know. I don't know.
But Bowden, I think, gives him the best chance. I mean, T-Set, all he did last week was hand the football off, and that's all he really needed to do because Southern was successful running the football.
He was told to do that.
He was told to do that. I mean, you clearly saw that. I think that's what frustrated our fans. Like, put some heat on T-Set. Move that pocket a little bit. Make him do something else other than hand the football off, but that didn't happen.
No.
If Bowden starts and if he can manage the game, not turn the football over, and if Southern can continue to ground and pound, I think they will have a heck of a chance to win this football game today. But if they don't, and if they can't, and make Bowden make plays down the field, I think FAMU's got a shot. So I'm impressed with what Bowden's doing so far, but this is the biggest game of his life. If he gets to start this biggest game of his life, big game of the year for Southern, and we'll see which Bowden shows up.
Coach Norman and Wheeler, game management by Bowden and the quarterbacks. How important is that?
I'll let A.D. Brown go first.
Okay. It's extremely important. It's probably going to make a difference between winning and losing. You gotta control things out there. And, if I'm running a quarter of many plays, more plays than you are, then chances are I'm going to win the game. If I'm pounding that ball and running it down the field at will, chances are I got a great chance to win that game. It takes pressure off of your quarterback, allows him to relax. He can make the third down play every now and then, or, maybe 2nd and 6, he might want to toss it out in the flat or something like that, but being able to run the ball opens up all those kinds of things. And so when it comes to coordinators, I'd have to give Southern's offense coordinator a little bit more depth than FAMU's offense coordinator. So that's where it's gonna boil down to, Carlos, in the end. Which coordinator has the best game plan, and which team is able to execute the game plan, not perfectly, but as close to perfect as possible.
Mm-hmm. Coach Norman?
Yes, sir. Everyone knows I like to run the ball. There's no secret about it. But kind of like what Mr. Brown was saying, what I do before every game, I go to my quarterbacks. I say, fellas, you don't have to win the game. Just don't lose the game. Pay attention, play smart, do what I ask you to do. So we're going to run this ball. I don't care if they 5, 6, 7 man in front of us. Because we can come back with slants. We can come back with wheel routes. We can throw the ball. We know that. But our main objective is to run the ball. So don't try to be a hero. Don't try to audible. If I call a play in, stick with what I got going on there. Stay calm, be poised, and just do as I ask you to do. And let's run this football, throw when necessary. And I think that's what Southern is doing with their quarterbacks. I don't know what kind of arm they got or anything like that. I don't know much about what's going on over there, but I do know this. They got a big offensive line. They're taking advantage of it. And I like to see that. They got good running backs. They hit the holes very well. I like to see that. They run with power. They run with speed. I like to see that. And so I would just say, if I'm the coordinator, I'd say the quarterback, we're in a big game. We got a chance to make history. These guys ain't lost in 21 games here. We can get this done. So just don't lose the game. Pay attention. Be poised. Just breathe, and let's just run that ball. And I think if they do those things, I think they're going to be victorious. I see Southern winning. I don't know if I'm supposed to throw it out there early, but I see Southern getting it. It ain't going to be a blowout. It's going to be close, but I see Southern winning this game. I see a shocker.
It's a pride thing. It's a pride thing up front, Carlos. Don't let nobody fool you. It's a pride thing with those 5 guys up front. You know, they got to move that ball. They got to move people off the line of scrimmage. You know, and for them, if they're not doing that, they're not getting the job done.
Got to get to that second level offensive.
No doubt.
And I think it's going to be a very physical football game. We hadn't talked about that. And then these fan bases get after each other. So it should be an electric atmosphere, but also the physicality of this football game. Traditionally, even last year, 24-19? I think Southern played FAMU the best of anybody, you know, in the conference. But I know that was last year's team, but the physicality will be important. Rest of the scoreboard. I think we got to it. Southern overall scoring 24-14. Pine Bluff loses to Grambling State 31-21. Jackson State over FAMU 35-21. Mississippi Valley State loses to Bethune-Cookman. A.D. Willa Brown was the only guy that got it right with that Bethune-Cookman. We'll give you the this week's schedule right now for you. Got a big game. Of course, Southern and FAMU, big game, but I think it's co-big games of the week this week. Alabama A&M and Alabama State in the Magic City Classic. And Charles, don't mention to me about, for some, this is the most important game on the schedule. We know that it is huge. What are your thoughts? Prediction time. Alabama A&M and Alabama State in the Magic City Classic.
I'm going to go with Alabama State. I think Alabama State defensively that's Eddie Robinson Jr.'s calling card is that defense. Now, we'll see if they got any offense with this 5th string quarterback. I was looking at the stats last night because we play Bama State next week. They're on their 5th string quarterback.
Wow.
And that's why I've kind of backed off Alabama State a little bit. And I'd say it last week. They've been through probably 10 quarterbacks in 3 years. You can't win. No way, no how, no chance. But that being said, with FAMU losing, Alabama State has a chance. I just can't see it from A&M. I love Coach Maynard's personality, but I don't see it. I just don't. And I think Alabama State will find a little bit of offense. Their defense will dominate. I think Alabama State will win this game. But it's a rivalry game, though, so you just never know. It's going to be 70,000 in here. You never know. But if I were to put some money on it, I would bet on Alabama State to get the win.
You know, Will and Coach Norman, to Charles' point, Alabama State, very nasty defensively. I think they're top in the conference. If not, they're second. Offensively, they've had challenge. Let me throw this scenario out. If Alabama A&M jumps out 14, let's say 14-0, do you feel that Alabama A&M chances are much greater to win the football game? Because Alabama State offensively, they're very challenged because of, injuries at the position, and there's no Andrew Body there. What do you think? That scenario.
Go ahead, Coach Brown. A.D. Brown.
I think so. But at the end of the day, this is a big game for Connell Maynard. This is huge. This is huge. Don't make no doubt about that. This is huge. This won't be the final nail in the coffin, but it could go a long way towards the pallbearers stretching and getting ready. Pumping a little iron. That's all I can say. But
is that from? Wait a minute, Willa. Yeah. Is that from an administrative standpoint? That's from an administrative standpoint, Carlos.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm just, we got to find out what's going on. These are two programs. These are two programs that are in limbo right now. With Dr. Bryant being an AD at A&M, he's going to start facing some questions sooner than later. Jason Cable, known to be a patient guy, that sort of thing. But at the same time, the resources that he's pouring into football, he's got to justify those resources at some point in time. And, with them having been picked, number one in the East for this coming year, that's pretty much like a kiss of death right there alone. So anything other than coming in first or second place would have been a downer, for them all the way around. So it's a lot of stake on this one, Carlos. It's a lot of stake.
Okay. So who's the
Dr.
prediction
Cable
for you?
told me at media day that it is expected to be better this year than last year. He kind of just said it without saying it to me, but I think you're right. The expectations are they got to be in the mix.
Well,
I'm going with A&M, Charles. I'm going with A&M.
Okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
I'm going with A&M. I think Connell out schemes Eddie Robinson Jr.
Coach Norman, prediction.
Predictions?
Alabama State, Alabama.
What'd you say, brother?
Alabama State, Alabama A&M. Prediction.
Alabama State.
Charles, who do you got?
Oh, I got Alabama State. I'm just not quite, and I like Coach Maynard, but I don't see enough from A&M. I mean, they're showing that they can score some points, but it's just kind of frenetic right now. I think Alabama State's defense is going to be the story. I think they're going to bottle up A&M enough. I got Alabama State.
Yeah, Alabama State's defense pretty doggone good. I threw out that scenario if Alabama A&M jumps up, say 14-0 with Alabama State's offense, it would be tough, although they can force turnovers as well. I'm gonna go with Alabama. I'm gonna go with Alabama State on this one, but I would not be surprised, like as you would say, Charles. But I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama A&M wins it this afternoon. But I'll go with Alabama State barely. It'll be a close one.
Well, Alabama State trailed 14-0 to Valley last week, and they found some offense with their fifth string quarterback. So them digging a hole is nothing new. But I mean, you know who they were playing, but I think, I do think they might have found a little bit of offense, and if they have any kind of offense, I think they're going to be a tough out, going down the stretch.
Speaking of Valley, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, they're at UAPB. I'll start this one off. UAPB has a tremendous quarterback receiver combination. That'll be just too much for Mississippi Valley State. And Wheeler, if Valley shocks the world and goes into UAPB, I will go on a hunger strike till January 2025. That's how confident I am.
Oh, God.
But I
know that's not happening.
UAPB.
If that happens, Carlos, I'll be right there beside you. That's for sure.
A hunger
and
strike.
We know that
ain't
happening.
Well, I won't be next to you because I love to eat, so that ain't gonna happen.
Hey, I'm with you, Charles. I'm with you too, brother. I was like, hey, I can't stand with you brothers on that one there.
You and Wheeler on your own. I'll sit there and watch you whittle away.
Well, I'm blessed though. Hunger strike to January. I have enough in the resource department extra to get my drift. So I would be all right.
All sizes matter, Carlos.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm getting ready to order my shirts. You can go to Black College Sports Network in the store. All games matter. And I looked on there. If you're a North Carolina A&T guy, you can get an all game matter in that with that color.
All right.
Grambling State.
Get mine this week.
Yeah.
Carlos, Carlos, real quick, what color did those shirts come in? They black and white, or you can get them? You order them any color?
You can get them in whatever your Melanie, if you can put up the link and you can get them in different colors.
Okay.
From what I saw, like for Southern University, it's a white background, but it'll have Columbia blue and gold. All games matter. If you're Jackson State, it'll be that blue and white, all game matters with a white background. So it's Ossie Clark, one of our guests, kind of came up with that. All games matter, and they do. So we'll try to get that link up before the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna order me 2 or 3 of them.
Yes, sir. Oh, here we go. The locker room. Black College Sports Network game time. The locker room, and you see, Southern University, Prairie View, Tuskegee. All right, Melly, our fabulous producer, Melanie, comes through again. And you can see Fisk University, Alcorn, different ones. And as me and Willer requested last week, they come in flexible sizes. You like how that one goes? Flexible sizes.
All sizes matter.
That's right.
That's right.
And let me say it this way as well. A lot of the ladies like to go to sleep. They like that nice extra size. She may be just a small, but she wants to get that medium T-shirts for that comfort as she lays down and go to sleep. So there you go. Visit Black College Sports Network news store, The Locker Room, as you can see right there on the screen. Now, back to our predictions. Did we all finish UAPB? We all in consensus on that one?
Yeah, I got UAPB. Yeah. That's their homecoming, I believe. And Coach Hampton locked it down this week. He said if you caught outside of where you're supposed to be, you won't play. So I think he's laying on that one. But yeah, I got UAPB. I mean, I think they're up and coming. I think they'll get this one.
Well, Wheeler, I don't know if all teams, but doing homecoming in each Southern for home games, they're off campus, the night before. So, we can understand that. And by the way, speaking of that, man, I got to be very careful with this one. Because it was a lot of flexibility on campus as far as the dress code and the dress last week. And I'll leave it at that because it was some controversy. And, hey, I'll leave it at that.
If you can afford to stay off campus, then that's great. But you got some schools, Carlos, is difficult.
Yeah.
So I mean, but if you can get the kids together and get them away, that's always a plus.
Get away from the distractions.
Difficult. Yeah.
Homecoming. All of that good stuff. Jackson State on the road. Bethune-Cookman. 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, of course, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Coach Norman, who do you got in this one?
Okay, had a distraction. It was Jackson State and who?
Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman.
Oh, Jackson State hands down. Bethune, at the beginning of the season, after they played whoever, it was a PWI they played, and I told everybody, I said, they look good. They got a team there. I said, if they can get that team rolling, they'll have something to do with it. I said, by mid-season, Bethune have something to say about what's going on. But they have not gotten any better, but they still have the right ingredients. It's like you got the ingredients to make the cake. They're sitting on the counter, but you're not mixing it and putting it in the stove. You're just staring at it because they got a big offensive line. They got a big quarterback who's got talent. They got 2 good running backs. They got size and speed on their defense, but yet the ingredients are just standing there. So as much as I hate to say this, I've lost a little faith in Bethune for the 2024 season. So I'm going with Jackson State hands down.
Not a trap game, Charles, at all. For Jackson State, a big win at home against FAMU. Could there be a little inkling of what's the word?
Complacency.
Complacency. There you go. Can you see a little bit of that?
I can. Look, Jackson State better not play, as they say, don't play around with it. I think this is Bethune's homecoming, if I'm not mistaken. So you add that into the mix, that they're going to be ready to play because it's their homecoming. You're making that flight down there to Daytona. Jackson's the better team. They better show it because if, one of the biggest upsets we've had in this league over the last 10 years The Braves were rolling. We roll into Daytona, and we lose to Bethune-Cookman, a game, one of the biggest upsets in the last probably 10 years in this conference. Jackson better not play around. They should win this game if they can build on the momentum, but don't be complacent. Don't play around with it.
You know, Willer, somehow I think Coach T.C. Taylor, I like his mantra, his mentality. You know, he's not going to let them. And I see Mr. Karras say BCU will play for their lives today. Watch. They probably will. But at the end of the day, they'll be lighting up the victory cigar. I think Jackson State gets it done. And I don't think it's going to be close, but I could be wrong. Willer?
If it's homecoming down there, you know, you gotta expect Bethune's best effort. There's no doubt about that. You know, they're just not gonna come out there and just roll over. You know, so you know that if you're Jackson State, could be a trap game if you don't go in there with a business-like mindset and just pound it out and, you know, put them where they belong early and often and just let them know we're not having it today. You know, and you know, Jackson State could go a long way towards making that statement that they're trying to make, that, you know, they're the beast in the East. You know, so every game is important for them. You know, they got a tough schedule, playing it out, and there's very, very low margin of error, you know, for Jackson State. So they can't afford to lose to a Bethune or a Alabama State or, you know, any of those others, you know, because they're in the driver's seat. And I know TC has got the hammer down. You know, he got his foot on their necks. And you know, I know he's not letting them off the gas pedal at all.
Shots fired. I got an alert from it's Pat Riley. The CEO of the Miami Heat, he says, tell Willer that Bethune-Cookman won't roll over at their homecoming like North Carolina A&T. Oh,
that's cold.
my.
Man.
Oh, my.
And that's hitting below the belt. That's hitting below the belt.
I eat the crow. Ain't no doubt about it. Every dog has their day.
Well, that's a crow gumbo. Oh, wait a minute. Let's stop it right here. What?
Yeah, plenty of crow in that
Willer?
one. Plenty of crow in that one, Carlos.
Oh,
crow in that one. Ain't no doubt about that. No doubt about that. You know,
so
and I would tell you, I'm glad I'm not the AD at North Carolina A&T right now, because you're talking about potentially some heads rolling. I ain't saying, you know, I would have dismissed the coach or anything like that, but we would have had a coming to Jesus meeting, you know, first thing Monday morning, or if not, first thing Sunday morning. And you know, we gotta find out what's going on. You know, that's unacceptable.
Right.
You know, that is definitely unacceptable. You know, Hampton drops almost 60 on you. North Carolina Central drops 60 on you. You know, you beat Winston-Salem State in overtime, who you should be spanking on a regular basis. You know, I mean, somebody gotta answer for that, Carlos. You know, so I mean,
we're having a meeting in the upper room.
I looked at the news conference. I looked at the press conference on Monday, and I wasn't pleased with the statements that was coming out of athletics there. You know, to me, it wasn't satisfactory. If I'm an alum, and I am an alum, you know, it wasn't satisfactory in terms of how we're going to get this thing right moving forward. And that's what I should have heard at that news conference. Instead, I heard a lot of volleyball and back and forth. You know, kids haven't given up yet, and all that sort of thing. All the coaches' cliches that you can put out there, he put them out there. You know, but to me, that wasn't enough. I needed to hear something of substance in terms of how we're going to take care of this thing moving forward. You know, if the HBCUs are pounding you, you know, then what are the PWIs that you're getting ready to finish out the season with? What are they getting ready to do to you? You know, you are in that conference, you know, at the very least, I expect to be beaten up on the HBCUs.
Well,
You know, we're saying in essence that we're better than you guys because we left your conference and moved on, you know, but you know, we're getting spanked by the very same guys that we're saying that we're better than. You know, so I mean, I may be in a minority of what I'm saying, Carlos, but you know, I gotta hear something more of substance as it pertains to where the program is going.
Well, you know, I have to be careful because for some reason I'm associated with 2-year contracts and what have you. What we talked earlier in the week, Will, that is not going to happen. But it's almost equivalent to Southern losing the Valley 6-0 on national TV. And they had a meeting in the upper room, and Coach Mitchell was gone. And, you know, and one thing about Southern, whether you like it or not, if something like that happened, you're gone. They'll find a way to negotiate and pay that coach out. Because if you look at
A&T can't afford a buyout, Carlos. So
wait a minute, why not?
You
Why
talking
not?
about you talking about over $1 million straight up. You know, they can't afford that. Ain't no need to even think about that.
I thought their resources were better than Southern University's.
We got to find another way. Now, granted, he did not inherit a championship roster. You know, I thought we should have done a better job of putting that out there up front in order to taper down the expectations.
Well,
you know,
now,
but he was living off of his rep in terms of, you know, being a defense coordinator, you know, at the PWI level, that sort of thing. And,
Richmond,
you know, the conference that they are entering and la-di-da, so forth and so on. So, you know, they figured that would kind of carry over the hump in terms of the lack of championship roster. But we all know that it takes a few years in order to build a championship roster. You know, there's no doubt about that. And so, you know, either you're going to have the patience necessary, you know, and you're going to make sure that he has the resources necessary to get it done, or, you know, you got to find a way. But I can tell you this, some of those assistant coaches, you know, we'd have to look at that at the end of the season, you know, in terms of whether it's time to move on from, you know, some of the assistant coaching staff.
Well, I'll say this quickly, Charles, Coach Norman and Wheeler. Seeing that score and scores this season, I have to think about Sam Washington. And what happened, but man, Sam Washington, that program took on the personality of that coach, and I got to see them up close in a few celebration bowls, you know, along with the other famous guy that was there that he took over with. But man, yeah, wow, I'm almost speechless. I can only just say, wow. I'll move on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pat Riley, see how you started mess again? Always starting something. And by the way, you have something you need to tend to. A 19-point opening home loss in the court was named after you. That was an embarrassment. Okay. Who do I have? Somebody help me out. Somebody's at Prairie View, 2:00.
Texas Commerce.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Coach Norman. I didn't recognize the logo. That's why it looked different. At 2 p.m., Texas Commerce lost to Grambling State in overtime. Prairie View at home Who do you guys like, Coach Norman?
I got Prairie View in a close one. I think they're getting better, but they've had some time off. This is Coach, whatever the head coach. This is his 4th year. He's really not doing what I thought he would be doing, but he's still got a good team. I think he can beat Commerce 24-21.
Wheeler?
I'll go with Prairie View by 3.
Well, a lot of close victories today in our prediction. Charles?
I don't know. I don't know about Prairie View. I don't know. Grambling did beat this Commerce team and come from behind fashion, I think, early in the season. What the heck? I'll go with Prairie View, but I'm not convinced. I'm not saying that they've packed it in. I mean, they've lost. They've got 3 division losses. I don't know what they're like. It's I think I want to say it's their homecoming too. I want to say, it is. So yeah, because it's their homecoming, I'll give big crowd there. I'll give them the edge, but that's it. I think if it wasn't for a regular season game at Panther Stadium, I don't think they would win. So I'll give Prairie View the win, 21-17.
3 points at home is always, you usually get that 3 points at home. Prairie View, it's been tough for them as well. I'll make it unanimous. I'll go with Prairie View, but I wouldn't be surprised if they drop it. But I'm going with Prairie View A&M. I'm going to go 27-24 Prairie View. We've done the Magic City Classic, if I'm not mistaken. We kind of did Southern and Family. Grambling State at Texas Southern. Boy, I should have asked Santoria. It appears that Mickey Joseph is kind of taking on more of the offensive play calling details. Grambling State in Texas, Houston. Who do you like, guys?
I'll start. Mickey Joseph, sounded the alarm. He's not happy with Crowley. He may be switching quarterbacks today. Crowley. Yeah, well, I mean, he said it. He hasn't been happy with Crowley the last few weeks. I think Crowley gives him the best chance. If he does not start, I'll go with Texas Southern. They got a big win over UAPB on their homecoming last week. I'm gonna go with Grambling because I just think they're the better team. I think Crowley will get it together. I'll go with Grambling in a high scoring game, like 31-29. High scoring game.
Both
Carlos, who's the OC down there? Who's the OC down there, Carlos? Is that
no.
Mr. 2 year? Is that Mr. 2 year?
Hey, he didn't even get 2 years. He got like 18 games or something like that.
Mickey Joseph wasted no time, did he?
Well,
I mean, damn, Carlos. Wow.
Well, I got to be careful here now because it'll come across as sour grapes.
I know you do, but I don't.
Well, to some people's point,
pull the trigger awful quick on that one.
Hey, so it seems to be a trend, right? Right? Come on. It seems to be a trend. Okay. The church is kind of silent there.
Yeah.
But when I said it, everybody's coming after me. Oh, sour grapes. Lightning is striking in 2 places. Right?
I see it.
Okay. So I'll leave it at that. But, I'll tell you what, Mickey Joseph is like, you know what? I'm going to grab lightning in the bottle because ultimately it's going to be his head on the chopping block if things don't go right. With that being said, Texas Southern has struggled offensively. Defensively, they've improved. I'm going to go with the shocker. I'm going with Texas Southern in this ball game. I think they get it done, and I think Grambling is just. If I relate it to a boxing match, they're getting pounded late in the 9th, 10th round, and they're staggering. And one good haymaker could take them out. They're fighting on the ropes. They're trying to survive. But I like Texas Southern, Coach Norman.
I'm with you, brother. I like Texas Southern. I think Chris Dishman has done a good job down there in Houston with the morale. I watched the game about 2 weeks ago, and I was just impressed. Because I've seen them a couple years back when the other coaches there, and just like everything was just like lethargic. They were just like down. But when I watched that game a couple weeks ago, I was like, "Whoa!" I see some motivation. I see some kids bouncing around. I see some good defense. Don't really know what's going on at Grambling with Coach Dooley and Mickey Joseph. They button heads like Billy Goats. That's their business. But I got Texas Southern. Once again, I think it's going to be a close one because I know Grambling can score some points. So I'm going to say like 28-25, something like that. But I got Texas Southern.
Charles, Texas Southern had Southern on the ropes. A shank punt. And the rest is history. Now that makes me even more confident. But if I'm wrong, I'll come back next week and say I was dead wrong. Dead wrong.
I'm going with Grambling. I'm going with Grambling. I applaud Mickey Joseph for making a move when he did. He didn't hesitate with it. He didn't think twice about it. He just went on and got it done. To me, that's a mark of a man with some true conviction. And we all know the honeymoon is short at Grambling. Ain't no doubt about that part. So, he understands that, I'm sure, and he knows he's got to get that ship right away.
Charles, there's something about the state of Louisiana. I mean, looks like, man, they don't.
Carlos, it's a hot state.
Yeah, literally in multiple ways. Charles, we got less than 2 minutes left. Who do you like?
I like Grambling in that one. I think Grambling's just a better team. I think they'll figure some things out, but I think Texas Southern's up and coming. Quiet as it's kept. Don't sleep on TSU. They come to us in a couple of weeks, and that ain't gonna be easy.
Well, especially if Alcorn State doesn't solve their quarterback issues. Got a chance to talk with Dean Barnes last week, the color analyst, and he says, I'll address it. It's the elephant in the room. The quarterback play has to get better. Less than a minute left. Want to congratulate Fred McNair, Coach Pete Richardson, Hillary Matthews, Bozier. Also, Earl Goldman, Charlie Neal for being members of the 2024 SWAC Hall of Fame. Less than a minute left. Closing comments quickly, Coach Norman.
Congratulations to all those who got nominated for the SWAC Hall of Fame. I'm hoping that things go my way. One day my name will get called.
Willa Brown.
Definitely a plus, and definitely kudos to all those who were nominated, who are going in. Really proud of Coach McNair. I think, he's battled through some controversy over the past year or so, and so for him to start to smell his flowers right now is a plus.
Charles, quickly, 10 seconds.
Congratulations to all the nominees. Looking forward to seeing them be inducted in the Hall.
Want to thank everybody. Remember, like, share, and subscribe to this show and this channel. And as always, I'm going to go out like this. Please, we're in the battle of our lives. Go out. Hashtag vote 2024. Peace and God bless.